Yes. Okay, so I feel like for me, the existence of God, I've always like generally believed in. I'm like, it makes sense that he's real. Like in my mind, it always just really made sense. I think I really doubted his presence in my life, like that he actually wanted to be close. I think for me, God was a watchmaker who like made like watchmakers create the watch, set it in motion, and then just let it go for the most part, and are like pretty much like detached from it. And I feel like for me, for a while, that's how I felt with God. Like he created the world, set it in motion, and then was just kind of like, all right, you do, like the world's just gonna kind of run and I'm gonna be out here. And so I didn't feel like I actually had like a personal relationship with him, and I doubted that he really wanted to be involved in my life. Whoa, that's a great question. The first like full song I ever wrote was a song about the Hunger Games, which I don't even like the Hunger Games that much. I like just finished reading like the third book, and like the last line of it was so cool, and I was like kept up at night thinking about this line and like how it makes such a cool song. And I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. So the next day I wrote this song based off of like the last line of the Hunger Games. So that's one that I'm like, I think I'm proud that I did it, but it's so cringy, and I'm like, I would never release it. I'll say like one recently where my wife and I were out to brunch after church, and like we were there and we saw someone from our church, and we're like, oh hey, like I didn't know them, but they knew me just from my music and stuff, and they ended up like paying for a whole meal, and it was just like this really sweet thing, and they like left before we could even like thank them. And I think things like that are just so like seemingly small, but like really intentional. They're just like, oh, we're gonna bless this young couple who are like out together, and we're gonna do it like in quiet, which is really cool. What do you call Batman when he skips church? And the answer is Christian Bale. And I've always thought that's great. I think I learned from a young age just like the importance of chasing your dreams. Like and for me as like a kid, it was like kind of like, you want to be a Star Wars character? Go outside and pretend like you're a Star Wars character for 7 hours straight, or like things like that. Like, and I think like that lesson from like a young age really like helped me dream bigger and like have like a bigger vision for my life of, hey, I actually think like you can do great things with your life. You can like follow the things that God has put in your heart. Like you can make steps to make them happen. Like with the Lord, there is that power to see that through. And so I think that's something that I still really hold on to today. Wow, I know what I would think of my high school self. My high school self would, I think he'd be really, really proud, because I think I'm like living out so many of the things that he like dreamt of, but weren't sure like could actually happen. And so I think if he could see like me years later and see like, wow, like so many of those things that you laid down, God actually brought back to life in new ways that you wouldn't have even expected, I think it'd be really inspiring and like hopeful for him. I think I would tell him like that, like the gospel is the best news ever. Like it's not just like okay news, it is like really, really, really good news. And it changes everything. Like it changes the way we operate, it changes the way we live, like it changes the whole scope of life here on earth. Like when you really know that God, like what he truly did for you and what he gave up and took up so that my life could be totally different. I think I didn't really understand that at a younger age. And so to be able to like hear like, hey, this is how the gospel changes everything. This is how why Jesus did what he did, changes everything. I think it would have dramatically altered my own life at a younger age.